Welcome back. Joining us now is an entrepreneur with 27 years of experience. Jim Baker is the founder and CEO of SUMAS Development Group, a business that offers one-on-one advisement on every area of business to make it more valuable and vital. Jim is also the author of The Adventure Begins When the Plan Falls Apart. And Jim, good to see you and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
We just talked to two individuals who've been pretty successful at starting up businesses. You were such an individual. You were 24 years old when you had your first business and took control. Can you give us a little background?
Sure. I got out of college like most people and sold consumer paper for about a year and a half, basically toilet paper, paper towels, and napkins in the New York metropolitan area. And I thought I was a pretty successful salesperson. And after I got my first raise of 5%, being naive and being young, I realized that I deserved more. And
Don't we all?
As a result, I decided that I really wanted to go into my own business where I could produce and hopefully be rewarded for my efforts. So as a result, my father had started a consulting business after he worked for IBM for 30 years. And he was doing that business, and he also had started but it was a dormant company, a search business. And I talked to him about that and decided I wanted to become a headhunter. And I started recruiting IT professionals in the New York metropolitan area. Did that for about a year, was able to generate additional income for myself, so I was very happy. And then my father passed away literally almost 12 months after I started the business. And at that point in time, I had a coworker who was 14 years my senior, and he and I decided to form a partnership and buy out my father's partner and buy out my mother for $13,000. And I became an owner, entrepreneur at a very young age.
Now you took this company, it became a national company, and you eventually sold it. For people who are watching this morning, and they're thinking, gosh, I have a great idea. I'd like to be an entrepreneur. Now, you have the 27 years. You can look over your shoulder and with 20/20 hindsight. What are some of the things you would caution them about or some tips you would like to offer up?
The first thing I would tell anybody who's thinking about starting out is if you have a really good idea and you have a client or a customer that's willing to pay for your services and or product, that's great. Sometimes people have really good ideas, but there's nobody willing to pay for it. And then businesses tend to die a very quick death, in that situation. But if you have somebody that's willing to pay for it, then go for it. And then over time, they'll listen to what that market is telling you, because you will end up having to change and adapt over time in order to create the most value for your business.
That's interesting, because Justin and Tom, our guests that we had on earlier, found a niche. A lot of people don't see those niches, though, Jim. They have a great idea. They think it's a great idea. How do you know if it's a great idea? Is it a matter of somebody investing in you? Is that the measurement, or is it feedback? What is it? I want to be an entrepreneur, Jim, is what I'm saying.
There's a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
You can determine that. I think first and foremost, yes. Obviously, if you're going to go out and raise money, and you can generate a lot of interest because those investors then believe first and foremost that there's a market for your product and or service, but ultimately they're investing in you. Do they trust you to be able to go out and build a business so they can get the return on their investment? So that's probably the first thing, but really the most important thing, as I mentioned to you earlier, is making sure that there's somebody out there that's going to be willing to spend money to buy your service or buy your product.
Now, oftentimes we have these family businesses. A lot of times they work, a lot of times they don't work, or maybe you're not willing to take the leap yourself and you got a buddy and you partner up with him and get into the business. Are there issues there, things that people should think about before doing that?
Absolutely. A lot of times businesses are formed, with two people that have a relationship, they're friends, and or they may be husband and wife, they may be dating, who knows. But they come up with this really good idea and everything sounds wonderful, but they really don't understand that there's a business relationship that is almost as strong, let's say, as a marital relationship. And once you become a partner with somebody, you're stuck with that person. And if there's an issue with responsibilities, within the organization, and there's decision-making issues, all of those things have to be worked out and probably written into an operating agreement, prior to you forming this partnership and working together.
So it's important to get into the details before you kiss and move on and begin your business, is what you're saying.
I think so.
Conversation.
I've seen a lot of neighbors of mine that have gone into business together, and they end up splitting up a year or two later. I work with some companies right now who have some partnership issues at this point in time, and a lot of it's centered around control and who's ultimately going to make the decision. So if you're a 50-50 equity owner, it's pretty difficult then to have one person make that ultimate decision. And I kind of liken it to if you're dating somebody and you get engaged and you're serious about having a life together. Hopefully you're going to cover religion, kids, money, whatever those topics are that are important to both of you. You need to make sure you're aligned, because if you're not, then it's going to be very difficult for you to have a successful business.
Has it been worth it for people who are maybe a little frightened to jump in, to get out and take over and be really relying on yourself to be successful, to make money, to pay bills? It's scary stuff.
For me, it was absolutely worth it. I think if you have the desire and you have the interest and you have an idea and you're able in your life to be able to explore those opportunities, you should probably try it. Because at the end of the day, life is short, as we know, and you don't really want to have any regrets. And if you have this burning desire to be your own boss and have your own company, if you're able to do it, then you should go for it. Worst case scenario happens, you fail, and then you go back into the corporate world, you do what you were doing before, and you move on. But at least you've tried it.
I just want to quickly talk a little bit about your book, The Adventure Begins When the Plan Falls Apart. It's kind of an interesting title. What does it mean? I mean, it's an interesting title, but what does it mean?
It basically means that you have this business, you have this idea, you have this strategy, and then you actually get into the business, and just like life, sometimes things just don't go according to plan. So you have, in our case, negative things that have taken place in the business, and you have to overcome those. And so the book is all about, what are you going to do to overcome those things, and what are the lessons that you've learned. So at the end of the day, if it happens again, you'll be able, or you can potentially avoid those things happening again in the future because of what you've learned, from other misadventures.
Well, I've read the book. It's actually a very, very good book. And if you're thinking about getting in business for yourself, you ought to pick it up. Jim, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking some time for us today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, too, for watching. As always, we hope you've enjoyed today's show. If you have any questions or would like to know more, visit our website at raleighcw.com and myrdctv.com. Now, I'm Bill LeMay, and we thank you for watching Community Matters. See you next week.